want to talk Black history, but I'm not allowed to do that. And it's hard to choose an individual to speak about when you're doing Black history. It's so many that have contributed. And I just want to inform you of some that came a little before Martin Luther King, because I think you probably think Martin Luther King was the Black history, but he is not. There was some that paved the way long before him. I'm inspired today to speak about some of the Buffalo Soldiers. And to me, because they were not just Buffalo Soldiers, and so they did a lot for the country. And I want to talk about two of these people who were intertwined, and I want to talk about it because because we're California residents, these people did a lot in California. And so I want to, just enlighten you a little bit about that and show you, because hopefully you get the opportunity to one day, go to some of the sites. Because there was no recognition of what some of these Buffalo Soldiers had done, there was a guy from Sacramento, Mr. Palmer, who had petitioned, he had started a writing campaign, about getting some of their works recognized. Now, there's a park that's called Colonel Allensworth. Now it's it's between Central California, between Los Angeles and San Francisco there. And it's in the desert area, the valley type area. But this park is one that was built by Black people, a Black man. There was one man, Colonel Allensworth, and 4 other men. Now these men selected this particular place to build their town. It's called Allensworth. It's still there. This was his American dream. We all come here from wherever, or we're here, and we're all looking for that American dream. Well, his American dream was to prove that Black people could do something. They were productive, and so he built this town. Now, Colonel Allensworth, let me get my notes together, make sure I get them right. I don't want to go ahead of myself, but I think I am. He was a soldier in the army there, and the park is located outside of Bakersfield. It's near Bakersfield, and but it's in 1974, the California State Parks, they purchased land within the town site of Allensworth, and it became the Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park. It's located north of Bakersfield, about 20 miles north of Wasco. And it's open now only on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because of the budget cuts. But you are allowed to go there during other times because they have something during the Black History Month. They have something on Juneteenth, and they have an event on their Founders Day, which is in October. And I usually go the second Saturday in October to recognize that. And when the town was built back in 1908, the town was it was set up there because it was a transfer point for the railroad. When the railroad would bring the crops in at that time, they would stop there at Allensworth and then transfer things, and then they would truck them out to the stores in different other towns. There was a restaurant, a hotel, a livery stable, and later on they built a school, a Baptist church, a library, and a post office. Amen. So all these things were there, and they're still there in the town. So just because it's a park, they didn't tear it down and just build barbecue pits. They left those replicas there, things there, so that you can go and see them. And these are things that, so afterwards, when the crops started being trucked in by the trucks, then that depleted some of their services, so they didn't get the benefit of the railroad anymore. So then the town started losing its business because the businesses were using trucks instead of the railroad. And then the other problem that came up was that the water that they were using, then when the San Joaquin Valley became more productive in growing the crops, things like that, then the water was diverted over to the San Joaquin Valley for them. So then the town began to die out. Colonel Allensworth was killed in an accident in 1914, but there were other people who came along behind him that was with him at that time in 1908. They continued to run the town. But later on, when these things happened, the town began to die out. And then the war, World War II came along, and some of the men that was there who had bought land for their home, for their families and things, they had to go to war. So then they were removed, so the town began to die out. But there's about 100 families still living there now in the town next to it, which is called Allensworth. Now, when you go to the park, you will see a sign. One of the streets is named Charles Young. Now, Charles Young, a Buffalo soldier, was born during the slavery time. Now, he was also a man who was a teacher. Now, everybody that was born in the South was not segregated. You know, Charles Young, believe it or not, went to a white school in Ripley, Ohio. And he graduated there with honors. He was chosen, selected to go to West Point. Amen. Later on, he graduated from West Point. And he with commission. So he has served in the Philippines, Haiti, Liberia, and all over. He was in the Mexican War. He fought there. And none of this was recognized. Now, when he got his commission, later on, he was assigned to the Presidio right there in San Francisco, which was segregated. The Buffalo soldiers then were people, the men who took care of all the state parks here in California. So they built the roads, which was inaccessible because they were using wagons back in those days. They didn't have cars, you know, and all that so much. That the cars, they could only go so far. But they built roads that would go right through the park. And if you ever go to Mount Whitney or to the Sequoia National Park, always look for there's a tree now named in his honor, Charles Young. Now, while he was a Buffalo soldier, guarding those parks, and then also building the road and restoring the park, he never got any recognition for this. So when you go there, you'll see there's a tree now that's been named in his honor. But as he was working there, he also named a tree for Booker T. Washington. So Booker T. Washington, an educator, and you know who he was, he, you know, taught a lot of people. So there's a tree named in his honor. The Buffalo soldiers also named trees in honor of presidents and General Grant and some of the others, and they took care of these trees and the parks. Now, because there was no recognition, there was Mr. Palmer, like I said, he had written to President Clinton, Senator Dianne Feinstein. He got nothing done, nothing happened. But President George W. Bush visited the Sequoia National Park in 2001. Now, Mr. Palmer wrote to President George Bush and told him all the things that he did not see while he was visiting that park. Within a 9-month period, George Bush had written back to the state parks here and had gotten the okay, the information, and now Colonel Charles young is being honored in that park.